This is TSN. From coast to coast, you're watching the Sports Network.
This is TSN Inside Sports. It was an emotional day for Canadian drivers at the Indy 500. Jacques Villeneuve outdrove bad luck and took advantage of a critical error by Scott Goodyear to win the Indy 500. Tonight, we will speak to the 24-year-old champion, his team owner Barry Green, and race analyst Eric Thomas. Welcome to TSN Inside Sports. I'm Dave Hodge. Jacques Villeneuve celebrates his and Canada's first victory at the Indianapolis 500, while those who watched the race are still trying to figure it out. Villeneuve's car owner Barry Green calls it the Indianapolis 505 because Villeneuve had to drive 2 extra laps to win it after being penalized for passing the pace car. Ironically, it was because another Canadian driver, Scott Goodyear, did virtually the same thing with 10 laps to go that Villeneuve became the race leader and the eventual winner at 24, the youngest winner in 43 years. Now, had it been a race without incident, Villeneuve's youth might have been the biggest story. But this was hardly an uneventful 500 or 505 miles. Even before the green flag fell to officially begin the 79th running of the Indy 500, the world's most famous auto race was already shaping up to be one of the strangest in its storied history. Much had already been made of the absence of famous names, the Penske's, the Unsers, most of the Andrettis. It was a front row made up of 3 part-time drivers who were running in their first race of the season. And much was made of the fact that for the first time ever, there were more foreigners than Americans competing in this, the most American of auto races. But the best and the worst were yet to come. Seconds into the race, journeyman driver Stan Fox lost control of his Reynard Ford, slamming it into the wall and causing a crash that sliced his car in half. Fox was pulled unconscious from the wreckage and was immediately listed in serious condition while undergoing surgery to relieve pressure caused by bleeding in the brain. Canadian driver Paul Tracy barely escaped that collision, and he climbed briefly to the 3rd position, but bad luck struck when he was forced to retire on the 136th lap with a broken throttle. When the race resumed after Fox's crash, pole sitter Scott Brayton battled fellow Menard driver Arie Luyendyk for the lead, but the Menard V6 engines, which displayed record-setting speed in qualifying, developed turbo boost problems and they were unable to hold off the hard-charging pack of V8s behind them. By lap 40, Jacques Villeneuve, who had qualified 5th in his Reynard Ford, momentarily took the lead. But 11 laps later, it was snatched away from him after race officials determined that he had twice passed the pace car under a yellow flag that came on lap 37. Villeneuve was struck with a 2-lap penalty that dropped him back to 27th position, and that appeared to end his chances of ever contending. On lap 77, one of the race favorites, Michael Andretti, the only Andretti in this year's field, limped out of the race, snake-bitten again after brushing the wall exiting the infamous 4th corner. Scott Goodyear assumed the lead for the 4th time. That lead was short-lived as Brazilian Mauricio Gugelmin passed Goodyear on lap 82. Meanwhile, back in the field, Jacques Villeneuve's racing bloodlines were coming to a boil as he orchestrated his charge back to the front. At lap 65, he was still 2 laps down. But as lap 66 came around, he had narrowed the deficit to 1. At lap 112, he ran the fastest 2.5 miles of the race to that point, circling the old Brickyard at almost 221 miles an hour. And on lap 156, to everybody's amazement, Jacques Villeneuve took the lead. Scott Pruitt then passed Villeneuve on lap 163, and he traded the lead with Robbie Gordon and Jimmy Vasser before he was overtaken by the ever-present Scott Goodyear 13 laps later. The veteran Canadian driver used the draft created by Pruitt's car to shoot past him on a restart. The ensuing chase produced the fastest laps of the day. With Villeneuve lurking in the background, Goodyear and Pruitt battled each other to speeds of 224 miles an hour. And then on lap 185, with Goodyear pulling away, Pruitt tagged the wall coming out of a corner, creating a caution that left Goodyear leading Jacques Villeneuve with 15 laps to go. On the fateful restart, with only 9 laps remaining, Goodyear was burned by the same sense of anticipation that had given him the lead and an almost certain victory. As the pace car came around the final turn leading to the straightaway and a restart, Goodyear nailed the throttle and accelerated past the pace car before it left the track. Shortly thereafter, Goodyear was given a black flag in order to go to his pit for a stop-and-go penalty. Goodyear refused to acknowledge that command. He was dropped from the official scoring, and the race was handed to Villeneuve, who drove through a cloud of controversy to become the first Canadian to claim the checkered flag at Indy.
The young Canadian has taken the win. There's second place.
24-year-old Jacques Villeneuve of Iberville, Quebec, was born to race as the son of the late Gilles Villeneuve, the Formula One star who was killed during a practice crash at the 1982 Belgian Grand Prix. Jacques made his own name when he finished second as an Indy rookie last year. He did better than that yesterday. Jacques, congratulations to you. Did it feel any different to wake up this morning as champion of the Indy 500?
It feels different, but I woke up this morning to do media, and from 8 in the morning it's been media and stuff like that, so I really didn't have any time to think about it.
What about 500 interviews today? Would that be it?
I didn't count them. It's pretty close to that, yeah.
Jacques, you're not supposed to win this race this young. Does it take you by surprise that you can win at the age of 24 and in only your second
No,
time?
it's all the work of the team. It's a big teamwork thing, and you know, we were ready. We were fast here last year and consistent, and it's been the same for the end of the season and the beginning of this season. So we knew we had a good chance at it, and you know, we did all the work we could do. My players, Reynard, was strong during the race, and the crew did an unbelievable job on strategy and on pit stops, and it just came our way.
But I'm sure you shake your head at the trip you had, the way you won. It wasn't out of any textbook, was it?
Oh yeah, it was very frustrating earlier on in the race when they took 2 laps away from us. At that point, we thought that we had no chance of winning it. But then we got our act together and we concentrated again, and you know, we just came back up through the field. I was on constant communication with Tony Sekeli, my engineer. We were talking about the car. So during the pit stops, we could work on it and get it a little bit better, and that's what allowed us to come back through the field. And at the same time, we were trying to save fuel, to have good fuel mileage by leaning the engine down. We had less power, but we had a much better fuel consumption, and that's how we could reach some yellow flags and do our pit stops under yellow.
Let's talk about the penalty, which I gather was because you did not realize that you were in the lead and had to fall in behind the pace car. Is that right?
Yeah, I didn't know I was in the lead, and the other thing is once I got by the pace car, it's the pace car's job to slow you down with his hand and to tell you that you're supposed to stay behind him. And twice he waved me by. Probably didn't notice that it was me there, and he just waved me by. On the third time, though, he shook his hands, and then I saw and I stopped. But you know, whoever the fault is, I went by it twice, and I just pay for it, and it's normal. That's the regulations.
Well, your reaction at the time was, as you have said, profane, lots of swearing. At whom were you swearing?
Anybody, I guess. It was just to get the frustration out, and you know, it's good I was inside a helmet and nobody could hear me.
But you don't really think that you can win when you realize that the penalty had been applied. So you're, just trying to drive consistently and pick up some points and finish the race? Yeah,
I knew we could come back up a little bit, maybe pick up 1 lap if we were lucky, but you know, I was looking to get points in the championship, and well, we came back up through the field quicker than I believed, and when we ended up on the lead lap, I thought, well, you know, we have a shot at this thing.
How much skill was involved in that? How much good management? How much good luck?
It's a mix of everything. You know, you bring your own luck, and when it comes, you better jump at it and take it. And you have to see when it's there. You know, the yellow flags happen just when we needed them. There's a couple of pit stops where we had used once 39.7 gallons of fuel, and the fuel tanks can hold only 40 gallons, so it was on the limit. But you know, it's in the team. Scott Graves, who counts all the fuel and every lap checks and imagines all the different scenarios and talks with Barry Green and with Tony Sekeli, my engineer, and that's when they decide to lean the engine down a little bit or not, and they tell me what to do. And that, on the other hand, I try to save some fuel as well when I'm in traffic or in a tow. And that's how we could stretch a couple of laps or 3 laps, and instead of pitting under green, we pitted under yellows.
And some other things happened, Jacques. You stalled a couple times at the end of a pit stop?
Yeah, the first pit stop, we had done a few days earlier a pit stop competition, and there was no refueling. And anytime the car dropped on the ground, you just stepped on it and went away. And on the first pit stop, those were the last pit stop I had done. So when the car went down, I just stepped on it and started to go, but they were still refueling. And I had forgotten about that. So then I barely stopped in time not to break the hose. And then when it was time to go, I just released the clutch too quickly without enough throttle and stalled it. And you know, it was just the nerves of the moment, I guess. And I did that a little bit later in the race. The clutch was starting to go down, and when I released it a little bit, the traction got in right away, and I didn't have enough throttle either, and I stalled it again, and I was very annoyed at myself for that.
Now, the Scott Goodyear penalty, you knew right away that he would be penalized and you would be leading?
Yeah, I knew right away that it was going to happen, and that's why when I saw the pace car, I jumped on the brakes. And I thought he would do the same thing, and I was really surprised when he just went flying by the pace car. And I knew right away that I was leading the race.
Now, had what happened to you earlier not happened, might you have gone past as well? Or, I mean, did you...
No, I would never have gone past because, you know, it's the regulation, and everybody knows what the regulation is. And you have to stick by it, you know, you can't cheat them.
Is there any room to criticize the pace car for what happened to you,
No.
for what happened to him?
No, I don't think so. You know, for the pace car not waving you by, you could maybe, because we've been used to pace cars that waved us by or stopped us, and there's never been a problem. And here a lot of drivers have seemed to have problems stopping when behind the pace car when they were supposed. But you know, we have to take the blame there as well, because we should have had better communication, and the crew should have noticed that we were in the lead and should have told me. So, you know, we can take part of the blame there. And we paid for it, and you know, that's fine. And on the moment, of course, we're going to be very mad and upset at everybody. But when you think about it, you know, it was fair that we got a penalty. Then for what happened to Scott, you can't really blame the pace car, because Scott let it go away, which is normal. But then he stepped on the throttle way too early. He stepped on it before going into turn 3. And we were doing high speeds already. We're doing 180 miles an hour getting into turn 4. And there's no way that, you know, the pace car is a street car. There's no way it had the time to go away. You know, it's the leader's job to manage to stay behind the pace car until the race starts.
So are you surprised at the initial reaction, at least, of Scott Goodyear and his team? They didn't seem to think that right had been done by them, and they were quite upset. Maybe you would have been too, but you think it was cut and dried and they shouldn't have been as upset as that?
Anybody would have been very upset of not winning the Indy, but you know, when you do your own mistake, you should bow gracefully and accept your mistake, and not start blaming everybody else. Of course, they were upset, but you know, you pay for your mistakes.
I know that there is much speculation regarding your future and a possible move to Formula One, and you're not about to make a decision today, but is it fair to say that sometime in the future you'll want to be a Grand Prix driver?
If the conditions are right and if it's in a winning team, and yeah, sure, but you know, it doesn't have to be. You know, I can't spend the rest of my career not going to F1 and retire from racing and never have been to F1, and you know, I could still have had a successful career. Of course, if there's if the opportunity is good and it's with a team where you have chance to win, and under conditions that you know that you feel are right for you, then it's worth a big look at. And you know, that's when you take all the eventualities in your hand and you weigh everything. But that's the same thing as being in a winning team in IndyCar.
Do you think that winning yesterday will affect your future one way or the other? You'll want to come back and defend, or maybe it'll make you want to go on to greater challenges?
No, I don't think it will have any weight on any decision. You know, it's not because I won this race that now I tell myself, oh, I don't need to be in the States anymore. I've done enough. Now let's go and try Europe. No, that won't have any effect.
I guess you're looking forward to the victory dinner tonight and $1 million?
Yeah, pretty much. It's gonna be tough because the day started at 8 in the morning today, and it's gonna be tough. You know, staying awake all night till 2 in the morning or so, until it's my time to be up there. But it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Have you had a chance to talk to anybody in Montreal and assess the reaction there? A lot of people happy for you, obviously.
Well, I've spoken with family, and you know, it's nice. It's a nice feeling when you hear that, you know, people close to you are happy.
Maybe it makes up for the fact the Canadians aren't in the playoffs, Jacques.
Well, you know, so sometimes everything works fine, and some other years you have a, you know, it's very everything goes wrong, and you know, it's not because you're doing anything wrong. It's just because the chemistry is not there. Something like Penske this year, they won last year, they were superior, and this year they had a hard time, and that can happen to anybody, anywhere.
Well, Canadians cheered you yesterday and congratulate you once more today. Thank you much for your time.
Thank you very much.
In his very first year on his own as a team owner, Barry Green has an Indy 500 winner. Thanks to Jacques Villeneuve in the car. When we come back, we'll speak to Barry Green about winning yesterday.
TSN Inside Sports, brought to you by Canadian Tire. There's a lot more to Canadian Tire for a lot less.
No two people are exactly alike.
Hi.
While Bob likes the high gloss shine of original Armor All Protectant, Fred prefers new low gloss Armor All with the rich, deep finish.
I gotta be me.
Either way, it's your choice. Only from Armor All.
When Makita builds high-quality power tools, they design them for the real world, where your reputation is only as good as your last job, where performance and reliability is what pays the bills, where there's just no room for compromise, and where the right power tool for the job is worth everything. That's why the one name that rises to the top is Makita, the power you can trust. For a limited time, buy this Makita variable speed jigsaw and get an extra value, an assortment of 13 high-quality jigsaw blades.
You just spray it on?
You just spray it on.
Quicksilver Wheel Cleaner from Armor All. Just spray it on, and then just spray it off.
That's it?
That's it.
Quicksilver Wheel Cleaner.
Villeneuve's Team Green is aptly named when you consider the prize money it'll receive tonight. But of course, the name actually refers to owner Barry Green, an Australian who used to drive himself and has had much success as a team manager. But this year marks his first campaign as a full owner of his own team. Barry, you are hardly a rookie owner, but technically this is a new team, Team Green. How does it feel to win Indy first time out?
Oh, fabulous, Dave. I mean, what a great day it was for us. I'm so proud of all the guys, and it just feels so great, and it's just sinking in. We're getting more and more excited, I think, and just feeling great.
Jacques has had his turn in passing out the credit to people like you and others in the Team Green pit and in the Team Green camp. Maybe you'd like to tell us why he had a hand in this.
Well, Dave, I mean, it takes one team effort, you know, and certainly Jack was a very, very big part of that yesterday. The team's working very, very well together right now, and we've shown that, I think, in the races prior to Indy here, and coming into yesterday, it's been a hard month. We bounced one car off the wall there on the Friday before qualifying, and the whole team regrouped and worked towards a good qualifying position, and then Jack went out and performed in the heat of the day to put it fifth on the grid, put the car fifth on the grid, and I think that was a real turning point to our month. I mean, that was a great effort on his part.
What makes him such a good driver?
Well, Jack is, and a lot of young drivers should watch Jack, because he's so very, very focused and puts a lot of effort into working on the car, working with his chief engineer, Tony Sekeli, and the rest of the team. Brilliant test driver, just continues to impress us. And I think that's where he gets the extra little speed out of the car. His feel for the race car is excellent. He's very calculated. He's a great learner. He knows where he is on the racetrack. He's looking well down the racetrack for traffic. He calculates his passes. For his age, and I've been lucky enough to work with some great drivers, and for his age, just amazing how good he is and how confident he is, and I see him getting better and better at every race we've done. And of course yesterday's win at the Indy 500 here is just going to give him even more confidence.
So maybe with another driver in that car in 27th place after the penalty, you'd have realized there was no chance, but because it was him, you thought you might have had some opportunity to get back into it?
Well, you know, we feel very, very good with Jack in the car and very, very confident with his abilities. And you know, after that two lap penalty, the wind was taken out of our sails for a few laps, and You know, no one was talking. Jack wouldn't talk to us, and we wouldn't talk to him. I mean, we were mad, and all of a sudden we said, "Come on, guys, we're still back we're still in this race. Let's fight back." And I think at that point, though, to be honest, we were thinking more of getting some good points for that could help us in the championship. And we fought back, and we asked Jack to drive hard. When we asked him to drive hard, he drove hard. When we asked him to conserve fuel, he conserved fuel. And conserving fuel and a little luck that we had in that race made all the difference.
I guess you'd like to have seen a race in which he might have been ahead by a lap or two at the end rather than just a few seconds. But he was good enough yesterday. Without the penalty, he might have been. Well, he might have been, you know. I think we performed very, very well, the players' team in the pit and on the racetrack, and had we not had the penalty, then who knows? But, you know, maybe that's what it took, and maybe that's what it took for the ball to bounce in our direction after that. And, you know, I think the team reached down very, very deep, and Jack certainly did the way he was driving in the middle of that race to get the job done, and maybe that's what it needed. But we feel really good because we ran 505 miles, and we won the race. Enjoy it, Barry. Thank you for talking with us about it. Thanks a million, Dave. It does take an expert or 100 of them to figure out exactly what happened in yesterday's flag-filled race. When we come back, we'll ask Eric Thomas to explain it.
You just spray it on?
You just spray it on.
Quicksilver wheel cleaner from Armor All. Just spray it on, and then just spray it off.
That's it? That's it.
Quicksilver wheel cleaner.
It's here, the magic of Tiger Days, only at Esso. Tiger Days is a whole month of special offers, exciting events, plus all the friendly service, value, and convenience you expect. Pick up a Tiger Days special, say hello to a friend, or treat yourself to a great snack. Tiger Days means Esso value and more. So come in all month long and experience Tiger Days. You won't want to miss the magic.
You're on your way with Esso.
World-class entertainment is on tap Thursday with TSN Pub Night. It's ladies first at the WPBA 9-ball tournament. Then the gentlemen take their cue at the Embassy World Championships. TSN Pub Night, it's good for what ails you. Thursday.
If you watched yesterday's Indy 500 and didn't understand all that went on, don't feel badly. You weren't alone. Even those who were in the race, in the cars, in the pits were confused by some of the penalties and lead changes. The host of Raceline Motorsport Television, seen here on TSN, and the Raceline Radio Network, Eric Thomas, joins us now to analyze the various twists and turns on and off the track. Eric, for a while yesterday, I thought I was watching the America's Cup on wheels with penalties and black flags and protests and the like. Was this a good race or a bad race for all the controversy?
I think it was a good race, even with all the penalties and all the controversies, David, but I think it probably could have been a much better race without all the controversy. There certainly was a very, very tight field, and with the Penske automobiles not there with Little Al and Emerson Fittipaldi, it certainly would have been a very tight and wide open field, which it was, but it's just too bad that USAC has to get in there with their rule book, but it is their rule book, and they run the most important race that there is with Indy cars, so you have to abide by those rules. Some people don't like it, and some people get caught out with it, but that's the way it happens to be.
You question any decisions that were made regarding the rules?
No, not really. I think the biggest controversy certainly was Scott Goodyear on whether or not he indeed did see a green light, which indicated not only the beginning of the race, but you have to understand that the green light also indicates that the track is clear. He came around the corner. He did indeed pass the pace car, but he claims that the track was open, that the green light was on, and that he was racing, that he saw the green flag. And indeed, Dwayne Sweeney, the starter, had the green flag flying, but unfortunately the tape replays do show that Scott Goodyear did indeed pass the pace car under a yellow condition. And by virtue of that, that indeed is in violation of the rules. The really wacky one was the one on Villeneuve that put him down 2 laps. He was able to make up and win the race, as we know, but came around and said that he didn't pick up the pace car correctly. Well, any sanctioning body that I know of, in NASCAR Winston Cup to use an example, any racing series I know of, it's the pace car driver's job and the starter's job to go out and find that leader at that point and pick him up, not the other way around. I mean, he went by Villeneuve twice on the track before he finally decided, oh, here's the guy that's leading right now. Is this the guy? Yes, okay, fine. Then he stops him and he said, okay, right. Now they penalize him two laps for passing the pace car. Makes no sense to me, but that's the way the rules package exists, and that's what you have to abide by.
Well, normally I'd be embarrassed to say that I don't know how you decide who the leader is, but when the leader doesn't know he's the leader, when the pace car isn't sure, and when at the end of the race the Goodyear team thinks that Villeneuve's penalty has been overturned, they can't believe that he's won the race despite the penalty, then I don't feel so bad about it. How do they know?
Well, it's the job of the steward, Tom Binford in this case, with the United States Automobile Club. But they have an electronic scoring system. They also have people who visually score the cars and keep track of the laps. It all goes into a computer, and you keep track of it that way. You're right, Dave. It's virtually impossible on a track of that size at those speeds for the number of laps that they turn, 200, to go 500 miles at a 2.5-mile track like Indianapolis, to know exactly who's leading at one specific point. It all comes out on a computer readout on the screen, and then the teams know, and they can radio the driver exactly who's leading. It says who's leading, and you'll say it's A1, and that could be himself, it could be another driver. Just give the number of the car. There are people that are hired to run that and to make sure they don't lose track of who the leader is at any one specific point on an oval. IndyCar does it on their own with championship auto racing teams. USAC does it too. It's not impossible to get it screwed up, but in this case, I think everybody was sort of guessing on exactly what happened to Villeneuve on his penalty. Was he indeed 2 laps down? Was that penalty overturned? How Tasman figured that the whole thing had been overturned, I don't know, but they really believed that and thought that they could get another decision overturned with what happened to Goodyear at the end. So mass confusion reigns, and it's unfortunate that it has to happen on the biggest IndyCar race of the year.
Well, I felt better at the end because I knew Arie Luyendyk was not the winner when he crossed the line. But
he did race for it, though. He made it look pretty good at the end.
He tried to fool me, too. Eric, thanks for figuring all of this out for us, and we'll look for Raceline next time.
Thank you, Dave.
TSN Inside Sports, brought to you by Canadian Tire. There's a lot more to Canadian Tire for a lot less.
Mr. Sub, fresh thinking is what we are.
You just spray it on?
You just spray it on.
Quicksilver Wheel Cleaner from Armorall. Just spray it on, and then just spray it off.
That's it?
That's it.
Quicksilver Wheel Cleaner.
It's here, the magic of Tiger Days, only at Esso. Tiger Days is a whole month of special offers, exciting events, plus all the friendly service, value, and convenience you expect. Pick up a Tiger Day special, say hello to a friend, or treat yourself to a great snack. Tiger Days means Esso value and more. So come in all month long and experience Tiger Days. You won't want to miss the magic.
You're on your way with Esso.
It's built to advanced safety standards. It out-accelerates most competitors with up to 40% more horsepower. And when it was voted Best Economy Car of the Year, to the competition it meant game over. The all-new 3- or 4-door Accent from Hyundai. It's a tough car to beat.
Apart from any other confusion that developed during yesterday's race, we should explain exactly why we have spent so much time talking to Jacques Villeneuve, when some of you may be under the impression that the winner of the Indianapolis 500 was Jacques Villeneuve. The Indy announcers didn't seem to have any trouble with Mauricio Gugelmin or Hideshi Matsuda. What's so tough about Jacques Villeneuve? And if you're wondering about the guy who drove the pace car, his name is Don Bailey, and we called him today about an interview, and just before he hung up the phone, he said no comment. Suitably scolded, I went back 2 pages on my script and wrote it all over again. And now here I am at the end. Where's the milk? Thank you for watching us again on TSN Inside Sports. I'm Dave Hodge. See you again tomorrow.